Yeah, bud.
Hey Internet, this is Eric. You may know me from my anime tribute reggae band Weeby Jammin'. Today, we're going to learn how to write a drum chart for Koby Lion's More Life. This is a self-described dancehall chart, so here's a few things to keep in mind. The very first thing that you're likely to hear is that this song doesn't use conventional acoustic drums. Many, if not most, modern artists are incorporating electronic drum sounds into their music. Producers spend hours, if not days or weeks, trying to perfect the sound of individual instruments. So if you have access to these samples, allowing your drummer to use these sounds as sonic options is fantastic. There are a few common and useful tools that drummers use to sample sounds. Many working drummers will have access to some of this equipment, but don't presume it to be available without asking first. Here are a few that I've used in the past. We've got the Roland SPDSX or Yamaha DTX Multi-12. They're both professional and easy-to-use sampling pads that are worth looking into. There's a few technical differences between the two, but for simple sampling or looping, either option will suit you absolutely fine. Another cool toy is the Yamaha EAD10, which can layer samples on acoustic drums, plus offer a wide variety of live effects. It also has a recording feature, and is what I use to record all of the drums that you hear in these videos. In addition to drum sounds, sampling pads can also provide small loops for instruments that you may not have on hand. When performing this song for the first time, I sampled the piano loop at the beginning. If you're looking for certain electronic sounds but don't quite have the budget for high-end sampling, try some of these tricks. You could add a splash cymbal onto the snare drum to simulate the electronic hand clap sound. You can also get a compressed sound by putting an old drum head on your snare. Take a listen to how these sound. No other effects have been added. As a quick side note, notice how putting anything on your snare is going to reduce its volume level. Keep that in mind when experimenting. If you're looking for something a little bit more subtle, you can get creative by changing how you play instead of what you play. You can cross stick across the rim of your tom, create a flam between your cross stick and striking the stick with your right hand. Use a jazz rim shot, which is the same idea as the previous one, but you hit your snare normally without letting your stick bounce off the head. You can also use your hi-hats to simulate a reverse cymbal sound, or use stacks for backbeats. Drummers like Larnell Lewis are fantastic examples to check out for inspiration on these kind of sound effects. While all these tricks are great for going above and beyond, remember that what works in a studio might not work live. As cool as some of these tricks are, many artists actually prefer a more traditional sound when playing on stage. Be clear about what you're looking for, but keep an open mind and write your chart with both options in mind if you can. Alright, that's enough of all that. Let's get to the writing. Conventions will vary from community to community, but if I was playing with your band, this is roughly what I'd want to see. Now for the first question, when it comes to notating any drum chart. So this song was described to me as a reggae song, but although there's nothing particularly strange or weird about this, bear in mind when musicians refer to reggae, their first thought is not generally the dancehall subgenre. Reggae as a blanket term is generally implying a one-drop backbeat sound, reminiscent of Bob Marley or Desmond Dekker. Dancehall reggae is generally associated with a more modern sound, based on a tresillo rhythm, which became popular in the 90s and 2000s. Prominent artists with big hits include people like Sean Paul, Beanie Man, or Popcan. This song is working with a verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro form. All the sections in this song are divided into 8-bar groups, which makes this song incredibly easy to follow. So the thing that's going to provide dynamic contrast between sections in the song are going to be the bars of rest. Marking those and allowing them to be easy to remember is a priority here. Finally, we're going to mark the piano intro and provide these minor pathfinding details. Other than that, not too much to worry about when it comes to the form. So when I write a chart, I need to consider what information I'm actually presenting. By writing slashes, I'm implying that the drummer has a little bit of freedom to interpret the groove. By transcribing a precise part, I'm implying that that is exactly what I want to hear. So if we're not sure whether or not we're going to be playing something precisely as the recording, or if we're going to be playing it more like a jam, we're going to err on the side of more information and provide the full beat breakdown. Here we have snare shots written in, and we're going to be adding E snare underneath to specify the tone that we're looking for. I'm also going to add a nice large slash shot for bar 17. So I'm listening back right now and I'm noticing a few hi-hat rolls and decorations that I didn't actually notice when I was transcribing this. So I'm going to change things up and group the snare with the kick like I usually do. Some of you may be wondering, why does this make a difference? Why not group the snare and kick or have all the stems in one direction? And the idea is to have things in patterns that are both easily internalized and easy to read. In other words, I want my parts looking like something that I'm already familiar with. Having said that, let's look at some samples of workbooks for drummers. Many of these books choose to group patterns into a single voice that shares one single stem. I've highlighted these parts in blue. When a second voice is present, it gets a stem that faces the opposite direction. I've highlighted these parts in red. Notice how the parts in red are generally repetitive and static. This allows drummers to internalize the red parts and makes the blue parts easier to read. This is also why I say that while it's okay to have your hi-hats, kick, and snare all sharing a stem, I encourage grouping drum parts as static versus non-static. Sharing stems turns your beat into one large blue part, which is fine. This is what Mike Clark and David Garibaldi do. But separating ideas gives me red parts that I can safely internalize so I can focus my reading on the more complex blue parts. All this is to say that due to the fact that many of the songs I play group the snare and kick together, I can personally more easily internalize this hi-hat part and read this snare and kick part, than to internalize this hi-hat snare part and read this kick part. A lot of people may argue the opposite, and they wouldn't be wrong. Some people may even prefer to have all voices grouped together as one giant blue part. But at the end of the day, remember that a good drum score should group ideas in the clearest possible way. If you're struggling to read it, your drummer probably is too. We're also going to use some percussion slash notation here on our hi-hats to make 30-second note rolls a little bit clearer. Percussion slash notation is a shorthand way of writing drum rolls. The short, proper explanation is this. You play faster notes for the duration of the slash note. You add one slash, the drummer plays notes twice as fast. 2 slashes means 4 times as fast, 3 slashes means 8 times as fast. So if you write 2 slashes on an 8th note, like here, the drummer is going to play 4 times as fast, or 30-second notes. All this means is that the drummer is going to be playing 30-second notes for the duration of this 8th note. In our verses, there are a few hi-hat rolls that I don't think are absolutely necessary to notate, but certainly add to the sound of the groove. So we're going to add in ad-lib to make sure that we have some decoration here without needing to be too precise. Drummers are naturally going to add fills as needed. Don't write fills unless you're absolutely sure that you need them there, and don't write your fills unless you're absolutely sure that you need that sound. It is akin to notating a specific solo or walking bass line. With that in mind, fills aren't a big necessity here. There isn't too much to write out, just a handful of moments before choruses kick in. Now make sure that you're always re-listening during your notation. I'm going to format this chart to keep my parts together and make things easier to see at a glance. And I found myself in a situation where formatting has actually made things worse. So rather than keeping these in 4-bar groups, I'm going to put these in a nice large 2-bar groups. Should make things a little bit clearer. I'm also going to change keys intro to piano intro to describe the sound a little bit more accurately. And now that all that is done, I'm going to trim some fat, make it look nice, add a title artist, and I think it's ready for us to give it a read.
Koby Lion, Eric sound. Out of the cold, we big up this tune to all we folks and friends. 2017, much blessings in everything, more life and strength. Hear me now. More life, all over the world, more life, each and every place, more life, north, south, east, west, more life, hey, more life, all over the world, more life, each and every place, more life, north, south, east, west, more life, MORELIFE, more life to the ghetto youth on the street. Each and every day, more money, much blessings to everybody. Go down on your knees and bless the Most High. Everything you need, Jah will provide. Each and every day, you have to give thanks and North, south, east, west, more life, more life. Stand firm, get a youth, stand firm, my people. Hold on tight, down to giving in this time. No. Stand firm, get a youth, stand firm. Hold on tight, down to never giving in. More life, all over the world, more life, more life. Each and every place, more life, more life. North, south, east, west, more life, more life. Hey, more life, all over the world, more life, more life. Each and every place, more life, more life. North, south, east, west, more life, more life. Koby lion, straight from Africa, Mother Ghana, yeah. Bless all my people who are hustling. Life go be better, so never give up. Yo, more life, all over the world, more life, more life. Each and every place, more life, more life. North, south, east, west, more life, more life. Hey, more life, all over the world, more life, more life. Each and every place, more life, more life. North, south, east, west, more life, more life. Yeah. 2017 and beyond. Koby Lion, bigging up each and every one. Eric Loud sound, massive.
We now have a nice legible drum chart that I'd be proud to bring with me to an overseas music festival. I won't ask you to like, comment, and subscribe, but as a personal favor to me, you could write a nice drum chart instead of getting your drummer to creatively interpret the MIDI file. Once again, please show some love to the artists who were kind enough to let me use their music. This is Koby Lion's single, More Life. As always, have fun, practice hard, don't explode, and I will see you all next time.